Hi, thanks for joining me. We are going to do a deep dive today into downward facing dog. This is such a staple across so many yoga practices, and yet it's not always really explained what we need to do. And I actually think it can be quite a complicated pose to get your head around. There's a lot to concentrate on, um, but hopefully we can break it down and make it simpler to get our heads around and explore how we can use different props to make this pose more comfortable, more accessible for us. So I'd say let's start in a tabletop position. Here, this is often a starting place. We might start with some cows in a flow, and then you'll be invited to take a downward facing dog. So if we're starting from tabletop, I invite you to tuck your toes under, and I would personally, for my body, move my hands a little bit further forward. Just gives me a little bit more space. And then I would encourage peeling the knees off the floor. So you're engaging your core, and then you're lifting your hips to the sky. And with that, lifting your hips to the sky, your legs are straightening, your arms are straightening, and our bodies are different. So you might still need a little bit of shuffling around to figure out what position suits you. And we see it on Instagram all the time. Heels to the ground, straight knees, straight back. And to be honest, that is not accessible for most people. I don't know if my heels are ever going to touch the ground. I have quite tight hamstrings. I have long legs. It doesn't always feel right for me. So I like to have my heels high just to start with and focus on the back extension, lengthening the back. Maybe you want to experiment with that. What leg position allows you to elongate that back? And thinking about your hips towards the sky. And once you've found a position that you feel like, yeah, you could stay in for a bit, maybe then you experiment with straightening out the knees. Maybe start with one, then the other. And a lot of teachers will call this pedaling the legs. So if you're in a class and you say, take some movement and pedal out the legs, this is what they mean. Straighten one leg, then the other, moving your hips from side to side. Be a great way to warm up the hips and the legs. And you want maybe your feet roughly hip distance apart. And hands again a little bit. Maybe a little bit further out, but roughly shoulder distance apart. And this might be what your downward facing dog looks like. This is definitely what mine looks like a lot of the time. And that is a perfectly good downward facing dog. But I tell you, when I come onto my knees, it's definitely not that restful, even though it is often said it is a rest position. So it's okay. We are activating muscles across our whole body. So if this is a difficult pose for you, that's not you, that's the pose. And it does get easier with time. So there are some options that might make it more accessible to you. If you're getting wrist pain, I like to put blocks underneath my hands. Give me space, takes the pressure a little bit off the wrist. That would be one option. If you've got blocks, you can put your hands on blocks and then come up again into that position. And even if you don't have wrist pain, it can give you a little bit of extra space. Maybe your heels feel close to the ground. Maybe you can extend your hamstrings that little bit more. These are all good to do whether we practice yoga regularly or not, just to get a feel of how our bodies change with time and what different positions do to it. So another top tip, and this is the case for pretty much all positions where we're pushing you away from the ground, is tips of your fingers, really handy here. So to encourage your weight and your weight pathway to go away from your wrists, taking that pressure off, encourage you to spread your fingers and really push down with the tips of your hands. You want to keep the base of your hand on the ground, but actually your palm might be raised a little bit. And when you just encourage your weight forward, yes, it is more on your fingers. I'm not gonna lie about that. But hopefully you're feeling less pressure through your wrists, and it allows you to push up away from the ground so your shoulders also have that space. I'm going to go up again and we're going to focus a bit more on the upper body. So as we peel up, it can be so natural to just collapse in our shoulders. And here I know I feel it more in my joints of my arms, my elbows, my wrists. So we really want to be pushing away from the ground. You might hear yoga teachers say, draw your shoulders away from your ears. And to be honest, when I'm upside down, I have no idea what that means. But try to encourage sort of your shoulder blades coming apart. So one out to the left, one out to the right. They're not actually going to do that. But if you do that in combination with pushing away from the ground, you create this space across the back of the top of your back. You almost want it to be like if you put a piece of tape across your back. You don't want that to be wrinkling. You want to be pulling that, be as straight and as flat as possible. I think it is fair to say that in pretty much every time you're told that there is a downward facing dog in a flow, you can take a tabletop. There are no prizes for doing a downward facing dog, for doing every downward facing dog in a flow. It's about what's comfortable for you and what suits you on the day. So my top tips, elongate the back. Think about your hips up towards the sky. And when I say the back, I'm also thinking about the neck too. Sometimes you might want to hang your head and look towards the floor, maybe to make it a bit more active. Sometimes you might want to look towards your belly or your legs. I think the key thing here, do what you're doing with intention. Don't have to get everything perfect or correct every single time you do it. But have an experiment and let me know what you think.